It is, we talk about the hard parts of parenting all the time, and it's okay. It's good that we're doing that. But we don't talk about the joy. There's like, I don't know if there's a joy equal to like watching your children become. You know what I mean? To like watching them grow and accomplish something that they thought was, that they worked hard for, you know, or watch them find something that they believe in, or even just like when you see them think critically and they come through a difficult situation and they made some good choices, you know? Like there's such fulfillment in that. But I cannot get there, or I can't even see those things if I'm so stressed and worried about controlling all the outcomes. You know? So, what I think, if I could put it in good words, one of the secrets of life is if I release control of the outcomes of my life, now I am free to enjoy life as it unfolds. I can start to see the beauty and the people around me and the beauty in the everyday routine that I put my hands to. And there's a second piece to these thoughts that's been swirling inside of me. And it's, I said it one way, the older I get, the more simpler it becomes. But it's like also could be said, the older I get, the smaller I think. And here's what I mean. I have dreams. Again, I have dreams like anyone else. Matter of fact, my dreams seem to be more clear, more sharper, more, I'm not so confused. We spend a lot of time confused about what it is we're supposed to do, you know, and I don't feel as confused about those things. I still want to do what I believe God is asking me to do. But what I don't need anymore is greatness, as you and I would think of it. The longer I walk with Jesus, the more simple it becomes. Matter of fact, there's something inside of me that's actively pushing back on all of those thoughts. There's a saying that goes, a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. An ounce of practice is worth more than tons of preaching. And I wanted to change a couple words just to restate it for the believer. I think it could be said the church grows great when men and women plant trees whose shade they know they will never sit in. An ounce of disciple making is worth more than a ton of preaching. But what is disciple making? I want to talk about this simple, let's not reduce, not minimize, not shrink, but let's rethink and readjust and recalculate what this might mean. If you're a church planter or perhaps a pastor, then this idea is a very big topic in our world. We pastors and teachers spend a lot of time thinking into this, and there's many good things and reasons to do that. There's a lot of really amazing and smart people too who have written books on like how to make your church grow, how to make, your discipleship program great. And it's amazing. Cam and I learned so much from it and have learned so much. And again, that's part of the world that we are in. But if I can be really honest with you, holding those ideas before you all the time and striving to go bigger, better, there's just so many things. It can take me down a very depressing tunnel, and it can also really jack up my motives for why we ever started this in the first place. And and honestly too, it will almost leave me permanently unhappy as I go about the weekly and the daily church life. And the reason why is because, is it really my burden to control all of the outcomes that happen here? I mean, it's an honest question. It's an honest question. I'm not saying that putting time into these things is wrong. I don't believe it is. But if you can, if I'm only result driven, if I'm only driven by what I can produce, then I'm gonna miss my opportunities to love people. Because can people be controlled? Is that what we're here to do? I don't know if my earring is making that noise, but if it is, I'm gonna take it off. I just think that the simplicity of Christ would tell me that loving people is the reason that we started this. And on the grand scheme of things, what happens with 316, like as a whole, right? Whether we ever become a 500-member church or a 1,000-member church, we started this and we answered a call that we believed, number one, that we were safe people. That's what we believed, and that Jesus wanted to create more safe places for people. Because so often churches, not just churches, but across the board, places that were supposed to be safe, just sometimes they're not, right? And so that's the root and the real reason. And if Cam and I are audacious enough to believe that it is him and our burden alone to make this thing become a million times bigger, then we're just a little bit, we're not going to enjoy meeting with you on Wednesday night Bible study with 10 people around the table. Do you see what I'm saying? Where is the simplicity of Christ? And here's what I think discipleship could mean, perhaps more than what we usually think it means. It's that I'm here living my life. Me and Cam are living out our lives. We're living out our love for Jesus while you guys are doing it with us and watching us. Discipleship really is that simple. Sometimes we there's a space for all of these things. Just hear the message behind it. Sometimes we're putting a lot of pressure on mentors and friends because we want discipleship to look exactly like different things, and we all have those, and I've had those seasons too. And there's seasons too where we need a little bit more of that, and that's okay. But discipleship is happening whether you know it or not. If you're in a community and we're doing life together and we share a meal every Wednesday and we show up together and we worship Jesus together every Sunday, like, we're paying attention to how we're responding to this life around us, right? Like, I'm seeing some of you go through some of the hardest experiences, and the fact that you are clinging to Jesus through it is discipling my heart, and vice versa. So disciple making is our practice. The friendships and the familial relationships formed through disciple making are the trees that we plant. But the problem is, one of the problems is that we like flowers more. The reality is that only one of these things sustains long-lasting and deep-rooted generational transformation. Flowers are beautiful, but they're short-lived, and weeds usually win out. And nobody's going to get any shade from planting flowers. And don't get me wrong, we need flowers too. They're beautiful. But we have to stop celebrating flowers like they're trees. We want results. I love to do something and get a really good desired outcome quickly, like a flower. If I plant a flower right now, in a week or two, I'm going to see something sprouting from the ground, and that's going to make me excited. But if I trust that my everyday showing up, if I trust no matter what my kids are doing, that life is going to teach them the same lessons it taught me, then I can trust that there's going to be a day, whether they know it or not, where they're dealing with their own disappointments and unmet expectations, and they're going to think about what they saw me and their dad do. And that's gonna be the most familiar thing. And that our life is a tree planted, and I might not even see all the fruit of it. But is that okay with you? Because that's okay with me now. I don't think it always was, but it's okay with me now. What if our legacy and our part in the story of God, what if it's less grandiose than you've ever thought? What if the most beautiful thing about this life is that we get to pause and enjoy the little things around us, the relationships right around us, and that is the best way that you can step into the will of God. There's another quote here, and it says this: mission is about a life lived because Jesus has sent us. He sent us across the street just as much as across the seas. It is an echo of the heart of God as he longs to be in relationship with peoples of the world. The reality is we don't have to go very far from where we stand to find people without answers. We're hungry for great exploits, but we're not expecting them to be at Walmart or the neighborhood gas station. But they're there because there's a lot of broken people there. We all need an altitude adjustment, a mindset adjustment. There's this quote from C.S. Lewis that says this: if you live for the next world, you get this one in the deal. But if you live only for this world, you lose them both. And there's something about this. I mean, it stopped me in my tracks. I mean, we see a lot of these memes, don't we? Like on social media, they float. And this one I saved it. I went back to it so many times. And I'm just thinking, this is where my thoughts have been circulating around, as I process my grief and all the deeper questions of life here as of late. And I'm thinking, it all makes more sense now. Like there's so much more freedom and enjoyment when I'm not exhausting myself to try to force and create all of this great stuff to happen, Like I'm letting go of this life the way that I once thought it ought to be and needed to be. And in doing so, how amazing that as I live with like this eternal perspective, and I'm really much more certain about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, that I get this abundant life here and in the next. The abundant life, and I've talked about this, I think, before, but I'm going to reiterate it now because I think it's worth it. The abundant life, we can't help it. We're Americans. We're kind of sold the abundant life dream, so we think about the abundant life, and I think we automatically go to that thing, that picture I've been painting all morning. But what I realized is that the Lord had asked me many times in the last 20 years, like he asked me to forgive my dad. If I had ever had this arch enemy, I had to go pray at her feet once. I didn't have to, but he asked me to, and it was awful and a terrible death to the flesh. And, and I did. I've been trying the best I know how to walk through these things that God asked me that feel dang near impossible. But what I realized is that is his invitation into this abundant life that is free from bitterness, free from void, free from all of the things that I can't control and the way that wants to tie my soul in knots. Like it's the abundant life is me saying yes to these things that are hard to do. And what I get is I get a more abundant life that is free from the chokehold of anger and disappointment. Does that, So it's not always what we think it is. I have a good friend named Bill Glennon. He actually led worship for us in the early days of the church. And he recently, he passed away in the last couple weeks very unexpectedly. He had 5 children at home, a loving wife. I loved these people, and I've loved this family. And we were all just so shocked and devastated, and his service was so beautiful. And they sang a song. He was a musician, and they sang a song that he wrote at the service. And I put a quote from that. He wrote this. They sang it. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. And I was thinking about this. Like, this is the secret to life. This is the secret to life. But we can't get there, right? When we're outcome driven, when we're focused on, when we're so stressed out and worried about the people around us, when we're trying to control outcomes. But living this very other-centered life becomes not just possible, but enjoyable when I've surrendered all of the things that I cannot control, and I realize that life is the gift. Last night I was in bed with my boys, and Kai and Sevi, they go to bed together, and either Cam or I lay them down, and they're usually out within minutes. And so whether it's Cam or me, we always have just a few minutes with the boys, and we have been practicing the Lord's Prayer, and then this other one we just started, but we always have a little moment. And I asked the boys last night after I prayed for them, I'm trying to get them to pray a little bit more. They always want me to pray for them, but I want them to start practicing talking to God a little bit more. So I said, if Jesus walked in the house right now and he came in the room and sat down on the bed and we were seeing him face to face just like Dad, what would you thank him for? And Kai said, He got really deep in thought. He didn't answer super quick. And then he said, Mom, I would just thank him for this life he gave me. And I thought, wow, if I could just time capsule that, because he's 6 and there's something innocent and pure enough. Life hasn't disappointed him a ton yet. You know what I mean? He doesn't have all these unmet expectations yet. And so at 6, to him, this life that he has is just a gift. And not all of us think of it that way, do we? And I was just thinking, wow, it really ministered to me and in the heart of this message. And I was just thinking, wow, I want to just thank God for life. Nothing special has to be happening, right? I always want something special to happen. But am I genuinely just thankful for all of the things around me? Even all the unanswered prayer, all of the unmet expectation, all the disappointments that are still real. Am I just thankful that I get to be alive at this moment in time? That I've got the joy of raising a family? That I've had the beauty of all of you around me? Am I just wow, Lord, I am so rich. Look what you've done for me. And that's what I want. Okay, last point, and I'm going to close this out. I watched the movie Dune this week. I'm sorry, I know I got a lot of secular references, but I get spoke to a lot in a lot of these movies. And there's something cool about these post-apocalyptic films too, because it's it's the worst that anything could happen has already happened, and they're there's just this search for, they're trying to rebuild civilization. There's a lot of cool things. So there's this part right in the beginning of the show where the dad, and I forget the dad's name, but he's talking to Paul, which is the main character of the show, and he's kind of like the chosen one, it seems. And his dad turns to him and he says this, and I felt like it wrapped up the whole theme of the whole heart of the message I was trying to communicate today. He said, A great man doesn't seek to lead, he's called to it, and the man will answer. And if your answer to that call is no, because Paul's wrestling with it, then you will still be the only thing I've ever needed you to be, my son. And I was like, whoa, like that is beautiful. Because if the most grand thing you ever did with your life is be a son or a daughter, be a son or a daughter and live in communion with the one who created you,